It's been a parallel month of March for these two teams as we're underway here in St. Marcus. Both teams 8-2 in March. Each opened the month with a loss, and then both teams went on 8-game winning streaks, both ending on Sunday.
The odds of that happening are almost slim to none, but we've talked about it all open, and so far here in the first two pitches, these teams are on a roll. They're both playing their best ball right now, and both coaching staffs hope they only continue to get better as they continue their stride into conference play.
That ball lined into left field by the glove of Hannah Earls, and Woolley is on, going opposite way. And a base hit for the Aggies starts the game.
Good job by Coco Woolley right here. Just kind of blooping this out. Gets a pitch off the plate, right off the end of her bat. I thought Hannah Earls might have a play on this, but it squeaks just past her into left field. And the Aggies are in business with a runner on first.
And Woolley is a huge threat on the base pass. 57 career stolen bases. And now batting is Amari Harper. The Aggies happy to have her back in the lineup. Last played March 6th. So she's been out of commission now for a couple of weeks. In fact, she's missed the first two SEC series for the Aggies.
Yeah, big moment tonight for Amari Harper to get back in the lineup. Sometimes after missing that many games, it can be hard to get your rhythm and your timing back at the plate. So just going to be looking to keep it simple in the box tonight, not try to do too much, just focus on having quality at bats.
The Aggies dropped their first SEC game, suffered their first SEC loss on Sunday to Mississippi State. Bobcats lost their finale at JMU in extra innings on Sunday as Mullins pumped it a strike, and they count even 2-2.
If Jessica Mullins can own the inner half on both these righties and lefties for A&M at the plate, she's going to have a good chance of being successful tonight, but she's got to keep the ball down. The Aggies have a lot of pop in their bats, and they're a really good hitting team with 2 outs. So if Texas State wants to keep staying this game defensively, Mullins has got to keep the ball down and keep the ball in the yard.
That ball popped up right back to Mullins. And Woolley goes back to first base. The game's first out, caught by Mullins. And what a way here in the first inning.
The center fielder, number 77, Jasmine Hill.
Again, Texas A&M record of 25-3. Their best 28 game starts is 2017, which was also the last time the Aggies reached the College World Series. Zarate, can she turn 2? No. Got the outs on a bang-bang play at second base. Jasmine Hill able to beat out the throw to first. And the Bobcats almost got an impressive twin killing by their sophomore second baseman.
Off the bat, I really thought this was going to be a double play here. It's kind of a slow developing play. Another hit off the end of the bat. Looks like Zarate got slid into there at second base by Coco Woolley, so maybe didn't quite get as much on that throw as she was hoping.
Hill takes off for second base on a pitch that got away from Kellner. And so A&M now has Hill in scoring position for Trinity Cannon. Hitting in the cleanup spot tonight for the Aggies. A lot of power for the senior out of Forney, Texas. 27 career home runs, 8 this year. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Going back to that almost double play there, one of the things that Texas A&M's offense is really good at is hitting with 2 outs. So again, Jessica Mullins got a base open here against Trinity Cannon. Very powerful hitter. Don't want to give her anything too sweet to hit. Caught Cannon chasing there to bring the count to 1-2. But you can never count this A&M lineup out with 2 outs.
Cannon herself hitting .290 with 2 outs this year. And .375 with runners in scoring position.
As a team, 43% of Texas A&M runs have come with 2 outs, and 16 of those have been home runs.
Second time an Aggie batters worked the count full against Mullins here tonight. Full count. Struck her out looking. The first punch out for Mullins. And the Aggies, Ricky Woodard.
This Bobcat lineup has a ton of speed. Facing Shaylee Ackerman, who throws with good velocity. She'll move the ball up and down in the zone pretty well. Has a little bit of an off speed. But Texas State has a ton of speed. They can put the ball in play and just kind of be pesky at the plate. So A&M going to want to keep them off the bases as much as possible to avoid Texas State taking extra bases.
For the Bobcats, their lineup has stayed rather consistent throughout the season. The change, though, tonight, no Anna Jones, and so some players being shifted up in the order as Emily Baker gets a start in her place here this evening.
Shaylee Ackerman, going into the 2023 season last year, made the shift from being a two-way player to being a pitcher only.
Earl's a good runner. That would have been a tough play, even if Woolley fields that cleanly for A&M. A leadoff base hit starts the bottom of the first inning for Texas State.
Really good point, Brant. Coco Woolley, with the speed of Hannah Earls, has to absolutely sell out to be able to make this play at shortstop. She tries to come through and get it on the pick, but unfortunately the speed of Hannah Earls might have gotten in her head a little bit, trying to make the play a little bit too soon.
38th hit of the year for Earls. Top 5 in the Sun Belt Conference in that department. Now Sierra Trahan. Bobcats have won 15 of their last 18 games, including 4 wins over the Power 5. They've beaten Arizona State during that stretch, Ohio State, and they swept a good Big Ten team here, Penn State, a couple of weeks ago.
I think that Penn State series for the Bobcats was kind of a turning point. You know, going into it, they understood the caliber of the team that Penn State was, had a lot of good victories under their belt and a really strong start to the season. So for Texas State to pick up that sweep here at home, I think it gave them just a huge confidence boost going into conference play.
And with all those Power 5 wins, RPI for Texas State all the way up to 12 coming into the week. The next closest team in the Sun Belt, Louisiana, at 21. And there's still big RPI games to come for this Bobcat team, to include tonight. Butt down from Trahan, it goes foul. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Texas State will travel to Texas, host Baylor, and speaking of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns come here for a 3-game series. This is all to say, Haley, that barring a collapse, the Bobcats are going to have a really good RPI and a good resume come May.
That RPI of 12, where it sits right now, is the highest it's been for Texas State since the inception of the RPI era. And RPI is a huge metric. What an effort.
Oh, man. Laying out was Coco Woolley. Laying out, trying to get to that ball. This off her glove, and this at-bat continues.
It's got to feel good if you're Shaylee Ackerman in the circle to see your defense trying to make plays like that. She never slows down, just off the end of her glove. But nonetheless, an incredible effort from Coco Woolley.
I'm sure she's glad the wall out there is padded. 2-2, and Trahan lays off. That'll fill the count, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Really good plate discipline in this at-bat shown by Sierra Trahan. Ackerman's trying to nibble away from her on the outside corner, but Trahan has not chased.
Takes strike 3 looking. Ackerman with her first strikeout. First out here, the bottom of the first, and the tough month of March continues for Trahan with this strikeout, now 4 for 31 since February.
This rise ball from Ackerman really catches the very, very top of the strike zone. If that's a pitch that she can get called for a strike throughout the rest of the night, and Jessica Mullins as well on the other side, these offenses are going to have to work really hard to get their barrel up to that pitch.
The senior from Salado, Piper Randolph, with a ground ball. Woolley will only go to first base. She knew if she tries for second, she may not get that out or either one. Got the for sure out at first, and now there's 2 down.
Very smart decision by Coco Woolley, the junior over at shortstop, taking the sure out there. That does put a runner in scoring position for Texas State, but with 2 outs, Sarah Vanderford coming up. Now you have a base open if you're Texas A&M. Don't have to give her anything too sweet to hit here.
Got our first look at Tricia Ford of the Aggies dugout in her second year in College Station. Here's Sarah Vanderford. Right down the middle for a strike. Vanderford, good series against JMU on Saturday. Homer doubled and drove in 4 as the Bobcats won that series.
That double she had on Saturday was about as far as you could hit a ball without it going over the fence. It just bounced off the top of the wall. So if the wind would have been blowing just maybe 2 miles an hour more, she might have had 2 home runs on the day. But nonetheless, swinging it very well for the Bobcats right now.
You referenced just how good the Aggies have been with 2 outs. Vanderford is hitting .448 with 2 outs this year.
It's always impressive when hitters can hit better with 2 outs than they can, the same or better with 2 outs, because there's a little bit more pressure sometimes with 2 outs. You're trying to get that run in. You don't have as many ways to have productive outs. You really have to put the ball in play in terms of a base hit. So to be able to execute with 2 outs just shows you experience.
Here she pops up, and the catch is made by Rylan Wiggins from second base. And the Bobcats, like the Aggies did at the top of the first, strand a runner at second. We've played 1. No score between these two. The player herself was a great player at St. Mary's in California in the late 90s. So good, in fact, she's the only player in Gale's history to have their number retired, her number 9.
It's pretty legendary. Trisha Ford has had an immediate impact on this Texas A&M program since the moment she stepped on campus. She's well known as the pitching guru around college softball. And pitching coach for Texas State, Josh Trevino, actually spent a year under Trisha Ford as a graduate assistant. And he just spoke so highly of her and all the things that he learned. Said she really took him in, asked him what his goals were at Arizona State. You know, do you want to just get your degree? Do you want to learn more about the sport? And Josh Trevino said, I want to be a pitching coach at this level, and I want to be a good one. And Trisha Ford was super welcoming, took him under her wing as much as she could, invited him into as many developmental meetings as were appropriate. And it was funny talking with Josh. He said the way that we both kind of call pitches and approach the game from a pitching standpoint are very, very similar. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. But he spoke so highly of her and is really thankful for the role she played in his career thus far.
Leadoff batter here for the Aggies, Julia Cottrell. Count is even, facing Jessica Mullins, 2-2. Cottrell, second-year transfer from Oklahoma State. The lone Aggie named preseason All-SEC. Swing and a miss. That's strikeout number 2 for Mullins. 1 out here in the second.
Jessica Mullins going to her screwball here. She elevates it just a little bit and gets Cottrell to swing through it until Jessica Mullins is really attacking this inner half to the righties here. If she can establish that part of the zone, she's going to have to make these Aggie bats work to get their barrel squared up on the ball.
Allie Enright looks at ball 1 in tight. So over the weekend, this past weekend, Haley, we introduced the ticker to our baseball broadcast. Ty Harrington got super excited about that. So I hope you're just as excited to have them here for softball as well.
I am. That's big time. Helps you keep up with everything going on around the conference.
And you can see there's a lot of Sunbelt versus SEC tonight. Marshall, Kentucky, Georgia State, or Georgia Southern rather than playing Georgia earlier today. Bobcats, Aggies battling here. Enright on the take there. That'll run the count to 2-1.
To that point of Sunbelt schools squaring off against SEC opponents, we've talked about this all season long and even last year on our broadcast if you've tuned in with us before, but the Sunbelt Conference has grown so much and is so competitive. Last weekend alone, 4 different series in Game 3 went to extra innings, and if that's not a testament to the quality of the softball in this conference, getting better and better each year, I don't know what is, because it just shows teams having to grit and battle and fight it out on Sunday just to come away with a victory.
The count is even here to Allie Enright Jr. out of Santa Clarita, California. In her second year of the program, coming in from Arizona. On the ground to the right side, Katarina Zarate. 2 outs here in the inning. And since the leadoff base hit from Woolley, Mullins has retired 5 in a row.
Good job by Jessica Mullins locating this pitch low and on the inner half. Enright can't quite get her barrel out and square it up, so she gets a little jam job ground ball over to Zarate. No problem for out number 2.
Rylan Wiggins batting now. First pitch swinging and sends that to right field. One pitch and a base hit for Wiggins.
Good job by Rylan Wiggins being aggressive early in the count. This pitch is down, but it's just too much over the heart of the plate. Rylan Wiggins doing a good job of executing her game plan right away.
Bobcats know Wiggins all too well. She was the one who scored the walk-off run against the Bobcats in the Austin Regional last year. Again, a wild game. It was 1-0 Texas State going into the 7th inning. 2 outs. A&M rallied back to win 2-1. Both teams just great pitching, great defensive plays throughout. Bobcats had an outfield assist with a play at the plate in that game. Texas State battled back to win its second game of the tournament. Faced the Aggies again, and another tight one came down to the 7th inning.
Games like that in the regional tournament, one, it's always a little bit more adrenaline, more amped up because it's the postseason. But those types of games really come down to one pitch, one swing, one play. Who's going to get that timely hit? And unfortunately for the Bobcats, they just couldn't execute when their number was called. A&M able to battle back and take the victory. But those kinds of moments provide experience, and I can guarantee you that all of these athletes on this field that have been there before, it's just another tool in their tool belt when they get back, and they'll remember how they felt in those moments, and hopefully for their coaching staffs are able to execute again when their number is called in that same situation.
Kramer Eshte knows this field well. Former Raging Cajun. First year with the Aggies now. Still an attempt at second base. There's a throw. With a tag not there. Wiggins able to swipe second base. Good throw from Kellner, but the tag is not in time, and the Aggies have a runner in scoring position.
Good job by Kellner, but the throw's just a little bit too far up the line. Hannah Earls tries to get her on the swipe, but the speed of Wiggins is just too much.
And then Eshte draws a walk. Not many of those given up by Mullins this year. Just the 12th she has surrendered in close to 100 innings. That's just an insane stat. 2 on, 2 out, and the 9-hole hitter coming up, Kennedy Powell. Brant Freeman, Haley McKay with you on this Wednesday night. Sunbelt versus the SEC. Big midweek matchup between two teams in the top 15 of the RPI. Aggies 10th, Bobcats 12th.
It's so fortunate for both of these squads being located here in Central Texas to have so many quality programs around. There's a lot of schools in Division I around the country that don't have the opportunity to play a top 15 RPI matchup in the middle of the week. So to be able to take a quick road trip just a couple hours down the road and get a matchup like this, which could be super critical come postseason time for hosting implications, boosting that RPI like we talked about. You just can't say enough about this midweek matchup and the opportunity it presents both teams.
On the ground, that's going to sneak through for a base hit. Rounding third and coming home to score is Wiggins. Eshte gunned down at third base on a good throw from Piper Randolph. However, the run did score before the out was recorded, and Texas A&M is on top. Tech. Tremendous resume in her 24th season now at Texas State. As we start the bottom of the inning, Carmen Bass swinging at the first pitch and pops it up. One pitch and one out. That's brought in by Amari Harper. And a quick out for Shaylee Ackerman here in the bottom half of the inning.
Great job by Shaylee Ackerman coming back in after your team gives you the lead. Getting one pitch, one out. Carmen Bass. There's nothing better as a defense after you take the lead or get on the board for the first time to have a quick 1-2-3 inning under your belt and get your offense right back to work at the plate.
J.J. Smith, the ex-Texas Longhorn, looks at a pitch outside. With Smith starting to heat up, her average has gone up 33 points in the month of March. 4 for 10 over the weekend against JMU. Homered in that series and drove in 3.
You took the words right out of my mouth, and J.J. Smith heating up at the plate. Her at-bats have just been so much more calm and focused. You can tell she has a plan. She knows what she's looking for. And when she decides to go, she goes full speed. And that's really paid off for her as of late.
Smith grounds one to Woolley at shortstop. 2 outs in the inning. Texas A&M, a team that typically bounces back. You see it, only 3 losses on the year. Coming to Kansas, Weber State, and Mississippi State. All 3 of those losses coming by a single run. Tonight trying to avoid what would be their first losing skid of the year.
Both Texas State and Texas A&M have done a good job this year when they have lost a game in responding. A&M hasn't dropped 2 in a row all year. Texas State has dropped a couple back-to-back here and there, but compared to last year's team, when they would have dropped a couple games, you know, we've talked about it, getting those wins over Texas and Alabama and then really struggling through the mid-season stretch. Texas State's experience has shown that they can respond. And now a bad day or a bad game can just be left at that. It doesn't spiral. It doesn't steamroll. Coach Woodard said her kids are still just competing. They know what they have the potential to be good, and they're able to respond much quicker, which is just a testament to their experience.
Just saw a conversation between Trisha Ford and her pitcher, Shaylee Ackerman, as Katarina Zarate steps in. On the ground to third, knocked down by Powell, recovers but doesn't make the throw. Didn't field that cleanly. As a result, the inning extends here in the bottom of the second.
Both J.J. Smith and Kat Zarate have hit the balls hard back-to-back off of Shaylee Ackerman. This ball kind of takes a funky hop. You can tell Kennedy Powell just going backwards a little bit right there on her heels. And because she's going backwards, she loses that momentum, and that ball eats her up.
That is her 3rd error of the year. And here's Emily Baker getting the start in place of Anna Jones. Haley talked about it earlier. Jones going after a ball against JMU over the weekend. Went hard into the wall and not available tonight. It's a Bobcat team with a share of nicks and bruises, but come to be expected at this stage of the year.
Yeah, this Bobcat squad is experienced, but sometimes with experience comes a few more bumps along the way. It's a hard grind to stay in a full season of Division I softball. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to keep your body healthy, and sometimes that comes with playing through some injuries and bumps and bruises. But luckily for Coach Woodard and the Bobcats, Emily Baker is a sophomore with a lot of experience. She's been used a lot in a pinch hit role throughout her freshman year and thus far in this season. So she's more than ready to take over tonight in right field for the Bobcats.
Baker out at first base. Ackerman able to field it with a glove, flip it to Harper at first. You couple this offense with the way that Emily Kennedy has pitched this year, and what you get is a really good softball team, one that is leading the SEC right now at 5-1.
A&M can't really get much hotter at this point in the season, and when you look at their offensive numbers from the entire 2023 season to this point now in the 2024 season, their home runs are up, their OPS is up, they have almost 30 more hits already on the year, they've scored almost 40 more runs, almost 30 more RBIs. I mean, I could just keep going.
Yeah.
The improvements that they've made have been amazing.
That throw from Kellner is high into foul territory, and Woolley will take second base. You can tell Kellner trying to rush that throw as Woolley's got a lot of speed going down the first base line. But because it was rushed, that's an extra base for Woolley and a runner at second to start the 3rd inning here for Texas A&M.
You said it, Brant. This is what speed does. This is a great bunt. Good job by Kellner to get out from behind the plate quickly, but she feels that speed of Coco Woolley and just airmails it a little bit. Good job by Emily Baker in right field to cut it off so that didn't turn into a 2-base error.
Bunt down here. Bannifer throws to third, and that, I think it hit the runner. The ball is dead as Woolley came home, but she has to go back to third base. Well, now they're going to put her back at second. Maybe the ball was dead? No, it's certainly.
So Sarah Vanderford picks this up, and they're going to say that Amari Harper, was in the running lane. So Sarah Vanderford coming up, making a play. But if that runner from Amari Harper is outside of the running lane and the umpire feels that it was impeding the defense's ability to make that play, they will call dead ball, which is what's been called here. But it looks like we're going to have a review of this.
And here we go.
And that play is under review.
So as of now, you got runners on the corners, first and third. And we'll have a couple of angles here and look at this play. And here is what Haley was describing.
So you can see here, she is about a foot or so inside of that white line. Ideally, as a base runner, you should be on the opposite side of that line within the running lane. And you can see J.J. Smith kind of lose that ball right as it's supposed to be coming to her glove. I would be surprised if this call's overturned. It's going to stand.
And that's an out. So Harper ruled out for runner's interference, obstruction.
The center fielder number 77, Jasmine Hill.
And also Woolley has to stay at second base. She can't advance either on that play. For the Bobcats, a big break there. They get an out, and Woolley stands pat at second.
Yeah, so anytime obstruction like that is called, the play is essentially dead. The runner that's causing the obstruction is called out, hence why Coco Woolley has to go back to second base. So even though, in theory, the bunt would have moved her from second to third, the play's dead and it has to default to how it was set up prior to the pitch.
After all that, Jasmine Hill batting down for the Aggies. 0 for 1 against Mullins here tonight. Hill used to play for Tricia Ford at Arizona State in her first year in College Station now. And having quite the season, top 10 of the SEC in a number of categories. And she has reached base safely in 19 straight, pops that up out of play. Count remains 1-2. We discussed this Texas A&M offense. They've been hammering opponents this year. The Aggies have 25 wins, 10 have been run rules.
That's so impressive. And going back to their improvements from nice pitch right there from Jessica Mullins. I'll get back to the offense in a second, but I got to talk about this changeup. Jessica Mullins splashed the off speed against Jasmine Hill earlier in this at bat. She goes back to it here on strike 3, but locates it in a much better spot in the zone. It's breaking down and away from Jasmine Hill, and there's not much you can do with that as a hitter. Great job by Mullins there.
Then she hits Trinity Cannon. Mullins hasn't hit many batters this year. And Cannon's off for the first time. 2 on, 2 out. Aggies on top 1-0. That'll bring up Julia Cottrell.
A few uncharacteristic free passes, like you mentioned, Brant, early for Mullins here in this game. The walk back in the second, now a hit by pitch here in the third. But she's trying to attack inside. She's trying to own the plate. And at the end of the day, anytime Jessica Mullins is in the circle, you're going to get her best competitive effort.
3 strikeouts of the night so far for Mullins. 99 on the year. On the ground, Earls from shortstop. And Mullins able to work around the leadoff base hit from Coco Woolley. And USA Softball top 25 this week, but still receiving votes. As we go to the bottom of the third, Kellner, Earls, and Trahan all batting for the Bobcats. First pitch, Kellner swings and pops it out of play. Count is 0-1. Crazy to think that there's only 4 midweek games left for this Bobcat team after tonight.
I was thinking about that on my way down here today. You know, there's only a couple Sunbelt series left at home too. It feels like this season thus far has really flown by. I mean, yes, we just started conference play, but the conference tournament and then postseason will be here before you know it.
Bobcats next week go to Huntsville to play Sam Houston out of Conference USA. Their next home midweek game against Baylor. Still have to go to Texas, the number 2 ranked team of the country. who the Bobcats played a 1-0 game here a couple of weeks ago. And their final midweek game facing longtime rival UTSA in San Antonio.
It doesn't get any easier for either Texas State or Texas A&M from here on out. It's really just going through the gauntlet, honestly. You mentioned it. Texas State facing Baylor at home, Texas, A&M in the SEC. They have a tough challenge every single weekend. You don't have the luxury anymore of taking your midweeks off, especially as a mid-major program like Texas State trying to boost that RPI and potentially get a host spot for the regional. So you have to find a way to get better every single day and have a short memory.
You know, the Aggies are through 2 SEC weekends already. They play 2 top 25 teams, South Carolina and Mississippi State. This week, hosting Auburn. Full count to Kellner. That turns into a souvenir.
So far, Texas State is showing some good plate discipline at the plate. They're not chasing Ackerman's pitches outside of the zone much, trying to work within the zone, make her throw strikes. And if Kellner can turn the lineup over for the speedy bats at the top of the Bobcat lineup, they're going to be in business.
Well, there you go. The Bobcats, per Haley McKay, are now officially in business. The first walk given up by Ackerman. Second time the Bobcats, or the third time they've had a base runner. And now we go back at the top of the order. And Ricky Woodard with her catcher on base will take her outs and bring in a pinch runner, Danny Laughlin.
Returning at first base for the Bobcats, number 2, Danny Laughlin. The shortstop, number 3, Hannah Earl.
Not surprised to see Coach Woodard get some more speed in here with Hannah Earls and Sierra Trahan coming up to bat, trying to cause a little chaos on this Aggie defense.
Earls has Texas State's lone hit and bunts that one foul. Hannah Earls, senior out of Willis, Texas, a couple of years ago, first team All-Sun Belt. The only player in team history with 3 straight years of 20 stolen bases or more. One of the fastest players that has ever come through this Texas State program.
Coach Woodard said Hannah Earls is probably the fastest player she's ever coached. And going back to your comment of stolen bases, Texas State, when they had their kickoff fundraiser dinner, that was one of the things Hannah Earls wanted to be known for. She wanted her legacy to be the stolen base leader here at Texas State. And here in her senior campaign, Coach Woodard has really given her the green light. She doesn't need to wait for a sign. If she feels like she's got a good jump and get a good read, Coach Woodard's going to let her go.
Here she flies out to Eshte and left, first out of the inning. Earls retired. That'll bring up Sierra Trahan.
Sierra Trahan had a really nice at-bat her first time up. She did strike out looking on a rise ball. That was a bit of a questionable strike call per se. Hasn't been called yet again since, but hey, that's how the game rolls sometimes. So you got to move on to the next pitch and be ready for your next opportunity.
Trahan, a former Sun Belt Conference Freshman of the Year. Bobcat player earning those honors in back-to-back seasons. Sarah Vanderford got him in 2021. Trahan in 2022. And behind here against Ackerman, no balls and a strike.
Kennedy Powell at third base for Texas A&M is really squeezing Sierra Trahan tight. So if she's going to go to the short game here, she's going to have to pull it to the right side of the infield or make sure that she really deadens it out in front of the plate, because Powell is all over her at third base. See a little bit of frustration there from Trahan. You can just tell she's not feeling overly confident, or she's frustrated with the strike calls that have been called against her. Not bad takes there until you have 2 strikes, but now you have to battle in the zone.
Trahan hits that to third base. Throw to second is in time. That's the only out the Aggies will get. That erases Laughlin off the base pass. But Trahan's on first, and that'll bring up Piper Randolph with 2 outs.
Good job by Kennedy Powell at third base to get the lead out there. Ball was hit hard right to her. Makes sense to go ahead and get the lead out at second base.
Randolph, a player that's shown a lot more power this year than she has in years past. As Trahan takes off for second, here's a throw, but the ball was dropped by Woolley. If she holds on, Trahan was out. You could tell by the expression of Jenna Bouillon, the umpire over there, ready to pump her fist. But once the ball came out, Trahan ruled safe.
Good slide in there by Trahan. Goes in hard. Just knocks the glove out of Woolley's glove at shortstop. You mentioned Randolph showing a lot more power as part of her game this year. In the 2023 season, she was still kind of going back and forth between short game, bunting, slapping, and hitting away some. This year, she's really focused on hitting away and driving the ball more, and it's paid off for her. And she still has great speed, so if she's struggling, with swinging away, she still has those tools in her pocket. But with the speed of Trahan and Earls in front of her, she's able to use a lot more of her power game and give Coach Woodard another tool in her lineup.
Randolph, 2 homers on the year. Already 6 doubles as well. 5 doubles, 1 home run all of last season. 2-1 from Shaylee Ackerman. 3 balls and a strike. The 2 homers that Randolph has hit, one came on her birthday, and the other was a game-tying 3-run homer on opening weekend against Kennesaw State, a game that saw the Bobcats come back and beat the Owls for Ricky Woodard's 800th win.
It's always good to hit a birthday bomb.
Good at-bat there from Randolph. Draws a walk. 2 walks in the inning given up by Ackerman. And the Bobcats now extend the inning with runners on base for Sarah Vanderford.
Sarah Vanderford getting another opportunity here in the 3rd inning with runners in scoring position. In her last at-bat, she popped up to Wiggins at second base. So she's going to need to look for more of a pitch that she can drive. Look to put a ball in the gap here. Tie the game or even give Texas State the lead.
Here we go. 2 on, 2 out. That's low to Vanderford. 1 ball to no strikes.
To me, Brand, it's starting to feel like here, second time through the lineup for Ackerman, her misses are getting bigger and her strikes are getting smaller. And what I mean by that is when she's in the zone, it's all ball on plate. When she's out of the zone, she's not nibbling on the corners as much like she was early the first time through the lineup.
And then the Bobcats a double steal. The pitch was dropped by Julia Cottrell. By the time she got the ball back, there was no play to be made. So a double steal puts Trahan at third. The tying run for the Bobcats now at third base, and the go-ahead run, Randolph, is at second.
Good read by Sierra Trahan, and she does a great job of keeping her hips square to third base as she takes her lead, so she doesn't have to restart and then turn to go to third base again.
So Trahan, 2 stolen bases in the inning. Count 1 and 2 to Vanderford. And that is a liner caught by Kennedy Powell. What a catch. It preserves the play for the Aggies, keeping this 1-0 lead intact as we go to the top of the 4th. Allie Enright, Ryland Wiggins, Kramer Rechday, all batting for Texas A&M. Man, that changeup today for Jessica Mullins, maybe the best I've ever seen it.
She hardly flashed it the first time through the lineup, and now in the second time through the lineup, she's thrown it 4 times now against these Texas A&M hitters. So you can tell head coach Josh Trevino was kind of keeping that in his back pocket a little bit, and it makes sense to start flashing it now as hitters come through and start to see Jessica Mullins for a second time through the lineup.
I feel like you could swing through it 3 times before the ball gets to the glove of the catcher.
Jessica Mullins, because she throws with so much velocity, when she can locate her changeup like that, especially on the corner like she did to Jasmine Hill to get her to swing through it for strike 3, she's so hard to touch because it makes her hard stuff harder. And then in the back of your mind with 2 strikes, you have to defend yet another part of the zone and another speed.
Here's that changeup again. Got her looking on the outside corner. Enright down on strikes. Strikeout number 700 in Mullins' career.
This changeup is beautiful. She pulls the string, Allie Enright can't believe it, but it goes the Bobcats' way for out number 1.
And also the 100th punch out of the year from Mullins. She's taken on quite the workload this year. Pitched all 3 games in the series this past weekend in Harrisonburg. 17 2/3 worth of work against the Dukes. 4th in the country in innings pitched coming into this game. She's now eclipsed 100 for the year.
She's a workhorse, and more than anything, she wants the ball. It's one thing to have the stamina and the strength to throw 100 innings at this point in the season, but to wake up every day and want the ball in your hand is just a testament to her spirit in the circle, and she believes she can beat anybody on any given day, which is a huge part to what's made her successful here.
Timeout called here by Wiggins. Has scored the game's only run. You go back to the second inning, it was her stolen base as Wiggins strikes out Mullins. 2 punch outs in the inning. It was Wiggins' stolen base that allowed her to score later in the inning, giving A&M this 1-0 lead.
Mullins going up and in here against Rylan Wiggins. Looks like her backdoor curveball. Gets Wiggins to swing right through it. And Jessica Mullins starting to heat up in the circle.
Now to the plate, Kramer Eshte. Over 40 starts in 100 games with the Raging Cajuns, 2 seasons with Louisiana. And now in her first year in College Station. Joining an Aggie team that won 35 games last year. They've already picked up 25 this season. 1 ball, 1 strike to count.
You can tell the second time through this lineup for A&M, since Jessica Mullins has started mixing in that changeup more, A&M just looks a little bit more uncertain at what speed she's going to attack them with. She's consistently thrown it throughout this entire second time through the order, so if I'm a hitter at the bottom of this lineup, I'm going up hunting that pitch and try to take it out of her hand.
There's a bunt, but it goes foul. At the end of February, Softball America named Mullins as the 9th best pitcher in the country. With the March she's put together and the month starting to wind down, I wonder how much higher up that ranking she's going to go.
It's going to be interesting to watch because it's no secret what she's capable of and what she's done here at Texas State. But at the end of the day, for head coach Ricky Woodard, she knows that none of that really matters. It's all about how you're going to perform when the season's on the line. And this team for Texas State has so much experience. They have all the tools and the talent. But if they really want to reach that next level as a program, it's going to be buying into the mentality of competing every single day, playing 1 pitch at a time. And you can't get caught up in the rankings, the numbers, the accolades. You just have to compete because the game doesn't know who's the best or who should win or who's got this ranking or who's one player of the week. You know what I mean? It's just all about competing at the end of the day.
Eshte towards left field, right to Sarah Trahan. And for the first time tonight, Mullins retires the Aggies in order with a couple of strikeouts along the way. 1-0, Texas A&M on top. We're back after this from San Marcos. Close to 1,200 that night. Curious what the number will be by the time we get the totals here this evening as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning, rather. Carmen Bass, J.J. Smith, Katarina Zarate batting here for Texas State.
I also must make a correction. I was informed by none other than Kat Osterman herself that Texas State Maroon and Texas A&M Maroon are not the same because the former Longhorn will not wear A&M Maroon. So, Kat, I'm sorry. I will not make that mistake again.
I'm sure there's an official, maroon shade code number that 100%. Each team has.
We've seen that up pitch from Ackerman called a couple times tonight. Home plate umpire Lyndon Baptiste has consistently established that part of the strike zone. So these Texas State hitters are going to have to adjust.
Carmen Bass, a sophomore out of Crandall, Texas. 2 for 10 over the weekend against James Madison. Drove in a couple of runs in the opener on Friday.
Carmen Bass is someone for head coach Ricky Woodard that she's still just waiting on for her to break out of her shell. She really feels like her sophomore class in Carmen Bass, Kat Zarate, who has shown some glimpses, had a really nice weekend against JMU, still just hasn't hit that breakthrough yet. Maddie Azua, same thing, really trying to find their stride and fit into this lineup.
Bass flares one to center, and that's over the head of Jasmine Hill. Goes all the way to the wall, and Bass a leadoff double.
Carmen Bass having some fun with her teammates there, and this is exactly what Coach Woodard is looking for out of Carmen Bass. Jasmine Hill takes her first step in on this play, so because of that first step, she's unable to make the adjustment and go back and catch this ball for Carmen Bass, so it results in a double for the Bobcats, and now brings J.J. Smith, who we talked about in her first at bat, is definitely heating up to the plate for the Bobcats.
Leadoff runner is on for the third time for Texas State. The question is, can they cash in? They have yet to do so, as Smith fouls off the first pitch.
You can't help but start to feel like the momentum is shifting over to Texas State here a little bit. Jessica Mullins picked up her first 1-2-3 inning of the night in the top of the fourth, and then the leadoff double here for Bass in the bottom of the fourth.
Hey, look, our first train of the night.
It's not a Texas State softball game without a train in the background. Come on now.
Not with at least 3 or 4 by night's end. That's our first one of the game. Comes in the bottom of the fourth inning. Coming down the tracks behind left field.
Bet you get a lot more trains in the baseball games next door. A little bit longer of a frame.
Yeah, last night in particular, Texas State facing longtime rival UTSA. Those two played a 1-hour first inning. The game won by the Bobcats 14-13. Smith a ground ball to second, and the throw gets away from Harper. That's going to tie the game. Smith to second base, and it's 1-1.
This is great execution by J.J. Smith. She doesn't hit this ball overly hard to Rylan Wiggins at second base. Wiggins does a great job of cutting it off in the hole, but because she's running so hard to her glove side, her only option is to spin all the way around, and she just overthrows Amari Harper at first base, which allows Carmen Bass to come around and score, and we have a tie ball game.
And still nobody out. Brings up Katarina Zarate. First pitch is high for ball one.
That definitely brought the crowd to life. Feel the energy shift big time in here.
I got a sold-out crowd. We said it. You saw the top 5 crowds in stadium history, and the one tonight could make that list by night's end. 2-0 to Zarate, or beg your pardon. A ball and a strike. Late strike called from Lyndon Baptiste. Count evens 1-1.
This is where the Texas State lineup can be dangerous. You get a leadoff double. Then J.J. Smith does a great job pulling the ball to the right side of the field. Now you pass the bat to Kat Zarate, followed by Emily Baker with speed. Megan Kellner, who's already been on once tonight, and then back over to the top of the lineup. So the Texas State offense can get hot in a hurry.
Swing and a miss. 2-2 to Zarate. Reached on an error earlier in the game. The Aggies are now committed 2 in the game. The last one charged to Rylan Wiggins. Just her second error of the year. Good take from Zarate. The pitch there was a little bit low, 3-2.
I mentioned Zarate had a nice series against James Madison, and similar to the approach that J.J. Smith has adopted, she just looks more calm and comfortable in the box. Looks like she knows what she's looking for. Coming after Coach Woodard down there in the third base coaching box on that foul ball.
You talked about her series at JMU, 6 for 11, had 2 hits in all 3 games. See Coach Woodard with a bit more of a smile on her face right now as the team has found a way to tie the game, threatening for more here. In the fourth inning, runner on second, J.J. Smith, and nobody out. Full count to Zarate, strikes out. Huge pitch there for Ackerman. It's good for the first out of the inning.
Really nice drop ball there from Shaylee Ackerman. Locates it well in the zone and gets a nice late break. Zarate swings right over the top.
And now Ackerman will face Emily Baker, the 8-hole hitter for the Bobcats. Pitch is outside for ball one. Again, the Bobcats hosting their first Sunbelt Series this weekend, taking on Appalachian State. Other Sunbelt Series looming at home against Troy, Louisiana, ULM, and the final series against Marshall.
Texas State will also get to host the Sunbelt Conference Tournament again this year.
That's true. They'll be hosting the tournament for a third time. Did so in 2015. Did it again in 2019, and they'll be doing it here in 2024.
I remember when we hosted and I got to be a part of the squad for that. It was so weird to see our home field covered in blue because they come in and they rewrap everything and it's truly Sunbelt branded, which makes total sense, but it's a weird feeling at first, but it's still really nice to play at home, especially in the postseason.
The softball tournament, one of the few that the Sunbelt still hosts at campus sites. 3-1 to Baker. Rolls that one foul at the third base line. Baseball tournament held in Montgomery. Basketball tournaments, men's and women's in Pensacola. Volleyball and soccer in Foley, Alabama. Of course, the football championship game is on campus sites, but in terms of tournaments, it's really just down to softball now.
I like the fact that softball is stuck with the rotating host sites because it gives you a chance to play at home in postseason, and just being in front of your home crowd is fun.
Baker with a base hit to center. Smith is going to stop at third base. On the throw to home, Baker going to second, and she's out on the tag from Ryland Wiggins.
Good job by Baker to drive this pitch up the middle. Great read by J.J. Smith to get in front of that. A&M should have cut this ball off initially. And it looks like Emily Baker just got a late jump over at first base. Maybe wasn't thinking too straight out of the box.
And Baker knew it right away, too. She was out. Settles for a single. It does move Smith to third. Go ahead, run for the Bobcats in the form of J.J. Smith. And now batting Megan Kellner. One run for the Bobcats already in the inning. Kellner with a pop-up towards center, hit it right to Jasmine Hill as Smith left stranded at third base. But this game is now tied. One run apiece going into the fifth inning. Bobcats and Aggies in a tight one here in St. Marcus, and we're back after this.
One, the buy-in that her athletes have trusted her as a staff with. They have jumped on board from day one to buy into her philosophies, what she's trying to teach. And it just shows that A&M has had the talent all along. You know, yes, they have some key transfer players that have come in, but to get kids to transfer in and buy into what you're trying to do in year number 2 and have success like this is such a testament to head coach Trisha Ford and her coaching staff.
Just saw Trisha Ford say something to Lyndon Baptiste behind the plate. Not sure what that was about.
Didn't see anything out of the normal from our vantage point up here, so I'm not sure.
1 ball, 1 strike. Mullins, 4 innings so far for Texas State. 5 strikeouts. The run she gave up was earned. Scored by the Aggies back in the seconds. There's a bunt, popped up and caught by Bannifer. That'll take care of Kennedy Powell. And 1 away here in the top of the 5th inning.
Good job by Jessica Mullins and her defense to go right at the 9-hitter Kennedy Powell. Never want to put the 9-hole on as the top of the lineup is coming back up in a free pass situation. You want to make sure they earn it.
Spoke about Texas A&M's start this year. Since the program started in the early 70s, the Aggies have won close to 70% of their games. They've been to the NCAA tournament 33 times, reaching OKC 12 times. That last trip again in 2017. And 3 national championships in program history. Their last came in 1987.
It's so good to see Texas A&M become a perennial program again.
Meanwhile, Vanderford with a bullet thrown to first base. Right on target to J.J. Smith. Both their basemen playing well defensively here tonight.
If Sarah Vanderford doesn't cut this ball off from Hannah Earls, there's no way that she gets Amari Harper at first. She comes all the way across in front of her shortstop. Good job by J.J. Smith to get out there on a big stretch. And it looks like Jenna Boyan made the right call over there at first base.
So Woolley ruled out. Now to bring up Harper here. Bases empty, 2 outs in the 5th inning. Vanderford, or Mullins rather, has retired 7 in a row now. As that pitch is fouled off for strike 1.
Thinking back to the bottom of the 4th when Texas State was able to tie this game, to me that started in the top of the 4th with the 1-2-3 inning by Jessica Mullins. She didn't get through anything clean really the first 1.5 times through this A&M lineup. Then she comes out and get a 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 4th with 2 Ks. Then Carmen Bass comes up, immediately doubles, and you can just feel that momentum shift. The crowd gets a little more life in them, and that's why it's so important to be able to play at home.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Harper. So far 0 for 2 in her return to action after missing the last 2 weeks. Fouls that one away. Count remains the ball and 2 strikes.
Even though Amari Harper has been 0 for 2, her at-bats have been very competitive. And sometimes that's really tough to do when you're coming back after missing a couple games. Sometimes you can get in your head mentally or your timing's off. But she hasn't been an easy out by any means.
Harper was the only Aggie freshman to start every game last year. Hit .323 her freshman season. In limited action, hitting better than .400 this year. Fouls that one away. Good battle here against Jessica Mullins.
What I love about this approach from A&M's offense, and we've alluded to it on the broadcast so far, but if you're just joining us, A&M a really strong hitting team with 2 outs, and you never feel like their approach at the plate changes regardless of the count, the situation, the number of outs on the board. They always just look like they're ready to do damage. And anytime you're facing that lineup as a pitcher and a defense, you have to be on your toes and expect the ball every single pitch.
Jasmine Hill awaits on deck. Mullins missing on that pitch, not by much. Full count, 3-2. Harper really fighting here against Mullins. She's fouled off several now.
And she's not just fouled off the hard stuff. She's fouled off the changeup. She's fouled off up in the zone, taking a pitch down in the zone. It's just a great battle between 2 veteran. Well, Amari Harper is only a sophomore, excuse me. But a great battle nonetheless, showing her maturity at the plate.
Full count again. Harper this time to left, and Trahan able to make the catch. Each team some great defense in this game. Trahan robbing Harper of a base hit. And Mullins again retires the side in order. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning in a 1-1 game between the Bobcats and the Aggies. Themselves at RPI rank of 12th. As we start the 5th inning, the bottom of the 5th, and Texas State and Texas A&M still in a 1-1 deadlock here.
for those watching that are not as familiar with the importance of RPI, it's one of the critical metrics that the NCAA selection committee looks at when determining, number one, host sites for the NCAA regionals, and also at-large bids. So 32 teams in Division I get an automatic bid for winning their conference, and another 32 get an at-large bid. And if you're a mid-major program without winning your conference tournament, you really want to make sure your RPI is around that top 40 mark, and you're not dropping any games in the bottom quarter RPI that you shouldn't be.
You know, you just brought up a conversation piece I get to think of. That is the possibility of Texas State hosting a regional. Typically, you're thinking about RPIs in the top 20. They're in that conversation. 16 host sites. Bobcats sitting at 12 right now. Things will change as they get into the conference schedule and play teams that will hurt the RPI number. But win a game like this, maybe defeat Texas, win the series against Louisiana, all of a sudden, the Bobcats are in that conversation about hosting a regional.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And typically, the top 16 seeds are pretty matched up to their RPI, but it's not always 100%. It's not the only metric that determines where you sit. But Texas State does have a chance to be in that conversation, but they're going to need to take care of business when they have the opportunity against top RPI teams like A&M, like Texas, like Baylor, who did get swept by Kansas over the weekend to a lot of people's surprise. But if they can stay in that conversation and keep the RPI high, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
And when playing teams with really low RPI numbers, you've got to take care of business. Any losses would be detrimental to your own RPI.
So a couple years ago in 2022, when the Bobcats just missed out on the NCAA tournament, they're one of the first four out. One of the big reasons that they missed out was they had a couple losses to those bottom quarter RPI teams, like I was mentioning. So it's essentially saying you lost a game you shouldn't have, lost several games you shouldn't have, and that can really hurt you down the stretch in the postseason.
Ackerman retires. Hannah Earls to start the inning. Seeing this Bobcat order a third time through. And here comes Sierra Trahan. 0 for 2 tonight. The bat's here with one out in the fifth. Ground ball to third. Nice pick made by Powell. The throw in time. And how about this game tonight for Powell at third base for Texas A&M?
Kennedy Powell does it again. She laid out on a full extension early in the game to save the tying run. Now she goes to her feet and makes a super strong throw off her backside, and she makes that play look very easy. It is not, especially when you have someone like Sierra Trahan running down the line with speed.
Base is empty, 2 outs for Piper Randolph. First pitch swinging, hard shot right back to second, and Rylan Wiggins makes the play. Ackerman with her first 1-2-3 inning of the night. We go to the 6th. Aggies Bobcats still tied. Hawks all rank in the top 25 in that conference.
The SEC has been stacked in softball for a while, but it impresses me year after year how they continue to remain at the top. LSU actually was unbeaten going into this weekend, finally lost 2 to Ole Miss, but really impressive start to the year by the SEC.
Jasmine Hill hit by Mullins, second hit batter of the game for Mullins, who again doesn't hit many. Leadoff runner is on for Texas A&M, but think about this too, Haley. As good as the SEC is right now, this time next year, they'll have Texas and Oklahoma.
It's going to be so interesting to see how those 2 additions to the SEC impact the conference, and also how Texas and Oklahoma perform in the SEC, because yes, the Big 12 is talented, but it's not necessarily the same caliber of teams every single weekend. Of course, the parity in our sport is growing at every single level, but it will be very interesting to see all the different conference realignments. And the other interesting thing of that is, with the SEC being so large, you're not going to play every team in your conference every year. And what will be the implications of that when it comes to postseason, and how do you compare different teams that have different strength of schedules in the SEC? So a lot of things to consider and see how they play out.
For the sake of argument, if you put OU and Texas in the SEC right now, they occupy the top 2 spots in the poll, ahead of LSU, who's third. So that means that nearly, or more than half of the top 25 would be occupied by one conference.
It's absurd to think about, honestly. But it just goes to show every weekend is a battle. So if you're competing against that quality of competition every single week, there is no better preparation than going into postseason. If you're a mid-major school, not to say that your conference isn't competitive, but you're not having to face that kind of caliber of competition every single day.
Cannon with a fly ball to left. That's going to fall just beyond the reach of Sierra Trahan. You have players with both teams putting their bodies on the line in this game right now.
All of these athletes are just selling out every opportunity they get, and you just love to see it on a Wednesday night here in San Marcos, Texas, top 15 RPI matchup, and the players are really rising to the occasion. Got a 1-1 game going into the 6th. Can't ask for more.
Cannon. What a take there. Borderline pitch on 3-2. Struck out early in the game. Here draws a walk. First two are on for the Aggies in the inning and nobody out.
It's a tough pitch to take. Could have gone either way. Home plate umpire Lyndon Baptiste hasn't always established that lower part of the zone. I'm not sure if I'm a hitter in that situation, I can take that pitch, but Trinity Cannon took a chance and she won the battle. So now A&M's got 2 on here in the top of the 6th, both via the free pass, looking to capitalize on these opportunities.
Haley Golden, the pinch runner here for Cannon.
The catcher, number 42, Julia Cottrell.
And here's Cottrell now for the Aggies. I know it's a tight game, it's a 6th inning, but Cottrell not the type to put down a bunt here for a sacrifice. RBI machine. First team all SEC with the Aggies last year. Does put down a bunt here, but it goes foul.
You jinxed her.
I did. But even then, that didn't scream sacrifice bunt, more of trying to get herself on.
Even if in this situation you have 2 on, no outs in a tie ball game, if I'm a coach, even if you are my best hitter, it doesn't hurt to square around and put the bunt down if you can execute, because you have a strong lineup. You can pass the bat to Allie Enright behind you, who's had a great year so far.
Two balls and a strike. That's lined to right and a base hit. Hit so sharply that the Aggies go station to station. Hill has to stop at third base. Can't come home to score, but that will load the bases now for Texas A&M with nobody out.
Nice piece of hitting by Julia Cottrell. Goes down to get this pitch on the outer half. But you're right, Brandon, it is hit so hard. I'm not really sure where Emily Baker was throwing that ball into. So fortunately for Texas State, it didn't get behind Jasmine Hill at third base. And nobody came around to
reclaim the lead. Enright leads his team in slugging. 8th in the SEC in that department. Numbers have dramatically improved from a year ago. Big RBI chance here, and takes ball 1.
That's a pitch right there from Mullins that she definitely wants called.
Already more hits, homers than RBI this year for Enright that she had all of last season. So far in this game, Enright 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Swing and a miss. Elevated pitch that time, 1-2.
Good job by Mullins creating spread through the zone there. When I talked with pitching coach Josh Trevino ahead of this game tonight, he said that creating spread was one of the things that he learned from A&M head coach Trisha Ford. So how can I create more differential between a rise ball and a drop ball, for example, as a pitcher, or my curveball and my screwball? Anytime you can get a greater zone of separation for a strike, you're making it harder on the hitter. Trisha Ford is very science and numbers based when it comes to her philosophy on pitching, and that's one of the things that Josh has been able to take with him into Texas State.
In the air, right field, that goes off the top of the wall. Hill's gonna score. Right behind Hill is Golden, 2-run single. Allie Enright. And the Aggies reclaim the lead on top 3-1.
Allie Enright coming through clutch. This pitch is just too much over the heart of the plate. She drives it off the wall, misses a grand slam by about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Fortunately for Texas State, it stays in the yard, but still no outs.
Next batter, Wiggins pops it up, and Earls has to catch a shortstop. First out of the inning, and one that Mullins really needed. That'll take care of Wiggins and bring up Kramer Este.
The left fielder, number 91, Kramer Este.
Going back to your comment, Bran, of this game having a very postseason type of feel. Usually those types of really competitive games comes down to that one swing, and it feels like Allie Enright for Texas A&M might have just had that moment. Texas State, of course, has the bottom of the 6th and the bottom of the 7th to answer back, but they're not going to be able to get 2 runs back on one swing, so they're going to have to chip away. But sometimes these games come down to that one critical moment, and kudos to Allie Enright for being able to step up with the bases loaded and nobody out.
The 2 runners have scored, got to first base with 3 passes. Mullins hit the leadoff batter, Jasmine Hill, and then walked Trinity Cannon. You give away 3 tickets to first base to start the inning, it's more often than not going to come back to haunt you.
Especially against a really, really strong program like Texas A&M. When teams are playing well and they're on a roll, the last thing you want to do is give them more opportunities to score and make it easy on them. You want to make your opponents earn every single opportunity against you. And unfortunately for Texas State here in the top of the 6th, A&M makes them pay for 2 free passes.
Just saw Enright steal second base. That is a strikeout. Este goes down looking. 6 strikeout for Mullins. 2 outs in the inning.
Mullins going to that changeup again. A little bit high in the zone, but freezes Kramer Este nonetheless. And if she can get out of this inning with only giving up the 2 runs, gives Texas State a chance, keeping this one close. Still 6 outs to work with.
You see the line so far for Mullins, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, the 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. As Haley said, though, big out here, trying to keep this game within arm's reach.
The third baseman, number 1, Kennedy Powell.
This is also a huge out because Kennedy Powell's the 9-hole. And with Coco Woolley on deck, who's been on base twice tonight already, last thing you want to do is turn the lineup over to her with the bases loaded.
Powell with a ball that is caught by Emily Baker in right field. Another fielder making a diving catch. This time it's Baker in right, and it robs the Aggies.
I just can't say enough good things about what she's done for this program, and the legacy that she's going to leave as a person is going to span well beyond her accolades that she's earned as a player.
Feels rather paramount. The Bobcats get something going here in this inning offensively. Vanderford, Bass, Smith all due to hit. Heart of the order here for the Bobcats, down by 2, facing Shaylee Ackerman. Vanderford lines out to left field inside the line, and Vanderford's going to turn from first base on her way to second. And guess what adds to that career doubles total? Her 65th starts the 6th inning.
The Texas State doubles queen does it again. Doesn't try to do too much with this pitch. Gets around it a little bit and just bloops it out into left field. Este was shaded far over into the left center field gap, which makes it an easy double there for Sarah Vanderford.
Vanderford 4th in the nation in doubles coming into the night. And now the tying run, Carmen Bass. After the leadoff double from Sarah Vanderford, Bass takes high and inside for ball 1.
Really good take right there from Carmen Bass. Last thing you want to do in this situation is expand the zone for Shaylee Ackerman and fall into her game plan.
Bass doubled her last time up. That led off the fourth inning and came home to score. At the time, tied the game at 1. Aggies scoring twice in the top of the 6th, on top 3-1. Leadoff batter for the Bobcats has now reached 4 times in 6 innings in this game. And Bass, swing and a miss, a foul tip, strike 1 and 2.
I like these cuts from Carmen Bass in this at bat, swinging very aggressively. Gonna have to shorten up here a little bit with 2 strikes, but attacking good pitches so far.
Borderline pitch taken by Bass for ball 2.
I'm not sure I could take that with 2 strikes as a hitter, but it's sometimes the way it goes. Lyndon Baptiste has been tight behind the plate tonight, so.
Bass, did he check her swing? She did. Able to lay off. Another borderline pitch. At that time, Ackerman works the outer half of the plate. The count fills 3 and 2.
Ackerman's done a good job of making her competitive misses more competitive. Kind of the second time through the lineup, she was missing big and missing over the plate. So she's done a good job of making those adjustments in the circle and hitting her spots better here, 3rd time through the lineup.
Full count to Bass. Fouls it back and stays alive. She's had a penchant for big moments this year. Bass hit the go-ahead double in the 6th inning in the comfort behind win against Kennesaw State opening weekend. That same weekend, had a walk-off 2-run single to beat Creighton. Full count. And Bass draws a walk. Boy, some of the pitches she took there, 2 strikes, gutsy. That's a hard-earned walk for Carmen Bass, and now the tying run is on for Texas State.
That at bat for Carmen Bass tells me that she's starting to settle in more at the plate to be able to take pitches like that, foul off pitches, and battle through that at bat. It shows the maturity that she's capable of, and you mentioned her liking for clutch moments so far this season. She's the type of athlete that Coach Woodard can rely.
Things are getting interesting very quickly here in St. Marcus. Smith coming off her big series in Harrisonburg. And ahead of the count against Ackerman, 1 ball and no strikes.
I know you said this earlier, but it just feels so much like a postseason game now, especially after A&M took the lead in the top of the 6th. Texas State coming right back with the leadoff double. Carmen Bass drawing a difficult walk.
You mentioned earlier the Sun Belt Tournament branding, and I almost feel like I'm looking at the outfield wall trying to find the NCAA logo, which they usually put up for regionals, because, again, that's what it feels like right now.
100%. This could easily be a regional matchup in a couple months for sure. And there's nothing more than you want out of a regional matchup than a competitive game like this. We've had diving catches. We've had missed grand slams by 2 inches. We've had competitive at-bats, tough takes. I mean, you name it, this game's had it all. And no matter what the outcome is of this game tonight, this experience for these athletes is going to bode so well for them in the postseason.
And how about the at-bats Texas State is having right now in this inning? Saw Bass draw a walk moments ago. Smith not expanding her zone here. 3-1.
This, for me, is the experience of the Texas State lineup on full display. Yes, Carmen Bass is just a sophomore, but Vanderford, a graduate student, J.J. Smith, a senior.
Smith rolls one to first base, throw to second for 1. That's the only out the Aggies will get, so Harper making the choice to throw to second base. That'll erase Harvey. Vanderford to third now, and now we have an out in the inning. 1 away, and it brings up Katarina Zarate.
I'm a little surprised that Woolley didn't try to go for the double play on Smith here. I like the decision by Amari Harper to get the lead out at second, understanding the speed of J.J. Smith at the plate. Might have had a chance to turn 2 there.
The tying runs are on base. Here's Zarate, 0 for 2 with a strikeout. First pitch in the air, left field. Vanderford's going to tag. She's coming home. Here's a throw. It's offline. Sack fly, Katarina Zarate. It also moves Smith to second base. So the tying run in scoring position. And this is now a one-run game.
Good job by Kat Zarate to get a pitch that she can elevate. If Eshte makes a better throw here, there might have been a chance for a bang-bang play at home to get Sarah Vanderford. But Vanderford runs very well, and I think she probably would have scored regardless. Good job by J.J. Smith to go ahead and move up to second base on the sacrifice fly as well.
Emily Baker on. With that tying run at second, Baker had a single off of Ackerman in the fourth inning. She's 1 for 2. And we've seen
She's getting loose out there in the bullpen. If Texas State's able to tie this game up, I would be shocked if Kennedy doesn't come in the top of the bottom of the seventh, excuse me. Honestly, even if they don't tie this game up, I would not be surprised if we see Kennedy to close out this game.
Agreed. Pop fly to left field, tracked down by Eshte, and that will end the Bobcats' sixth inning. But Texas State gets an important run across against the Mountaineers, 17-3 as we start the top of the seventh inning. And the first pitch of the inning is caught deep in left field by Sarah Trahan. And boy, Coco Woolley just missed going deep there on the first pitch of the inning. Well, long outs. And that'll go down as a first out here in the seventh.
Sierra Trahan doing a great job of readjusting to this fly ball from Coco Woolley. She initially drop steps to her glove side, but then has to recorrect, which is not easy to do as an outfielder, and doing a great job to secure out number one.
A lot of the Aggie swings have gone to the opposite field in this game. Got a pinch hitter up here for Texas A&M. Ayana Coleman pinch hitting for Amari Harper. Nobody on, one away in the seventh. Coleman swing and a miss, strike one. By the way, the crowd number 1,111, fifth largest crowd in the history of this ballpark.
Texas State always has great support out at their home games, but anytime a local Power 5 opponent comes down, like a Texas or an A&M or a Baylor, Bobcat fans really do a good job of showing out for their team.
Count quickly 0-2 to Coleman. That's out of play. Count remains 0-2 to Coleman, sophomore out of College Station. Talked earlier about Wiggins scoring the walk-off run against the Bobcats in the regional last year. Well, it was Coleman's hit that drove her in. 0-2. Swing and a miss. Strikeout number 7 for Mullins. 2 outs in the seventh inning.
Every single pitch from Jessica Mullins against Coleman here is up in the zone. Coleman just can't lay off. Gets her to swing through that rise ball for strike number 3.
Nobody on, 2 away for Jasmine Hill. She leaves off the pitch there for Mullins. 1 ball, no strikes. Hill hit by Mullins in the 6th inning and scored the go-ahead run. Put the Aggies on top 2-1 at the time. Trinity Cannon. The next batter was walked. Her pinch runner, Haley Golden, scored on the same base hit from Allie Enright. That broke a 1-1 tie. For the Bobcats in the 7th inning, the bottom of the inning, it'll be Kellner, Earls, and Trahan due up. The importance of 5 batters coming to the plate for Texas State in the 6th inning allowed them to get closer and closer to flipping the lineup card.
Yeah, that was huge. Not only get a run back, but like you said, get closer to getting the top of your lineup, getting the speed back on base, gives you a little bit more options, more chances to score some runs and tie this ball game.
Hill pops up to Vanderford. A 1-2-3 7th for Mullins has given the Bobcats a chance at the plate in the bottom of the inning. Texas A&M with a circle after Shaylee Ackerman gave the Aggies 6 solid innings And now Texas A&M turning to its ace, Kennedy. Talked about her in the beginning of the broadcast. The junior out of the Woodlands leads the country in wins, tied with Mullins in that category, each with 13. Third of the nation in strikeouts. Has 330 in her career. And she has been a lockdown pitcher all season long. Look at that, 89 in the third innings, ERA of 1.10.
There's no question that Kennedy has been the ace of the staff for Texas A&M all year. She's going to use her curve and her drop ball to try to work ahead. And the key for Texas State is they can't expand the zone against her.
Megan Kellner with a base hit against Kennedy to start the 7th inning. The tying run is on with the top of the lineup coming up now for the Bobcats.
Super clutch at bat from Megan Kennedy. This pitch has just left too much over the plate, especially for an 0-2 count. Great job by Megan Kellner, 1-2 count, excuse me, to turn the lineup over to Hannah Earls.
Steve Earls is bunting here. She shows, but takes a pitch outside for ball 1. Last week, Kennedy was named as the National Pitcher of the Week by D1 Softball. Her record this year, 13-2. There's a bunt down from Earls. Only play at first. Flipped by Kennedy to Harper. And one away, but the sacrifice will move Kellner now to second base. Give the heart of the order a chance now.
Good job by Hannah Earls. She tries to drag this bunt down the first baseline because Amari Harper is staying back at first. Emily Kennedy does a great job of coming out of the circle to fielder position.
Sarah Trahan, a chance to maybe tie the game. Takes a pitch outside, ball 1. One of those 2 losses for Kennedy came this past Sunday. Mississippi State, one of the few teams to find some cracks in the foundation. Tagged her for 6 earned runs at Starkville over the weekend.
I don't know if you can feel this, Brant, but Emily Kennedy is working very quickly here. She likes to keep the pace moving, works at a much quicker clip than Ackerman did, but Texas State doing a good job of staying under control. Nice grab right there from Cottrell to prevent the tying run to move ahead to third base.
Piper Randolph on deck. And then Sarah Vanderford. Bobcats will have their chances here in the 7th inning. 2-1 to Trahan. 3 balls, 1 strike. Kennedy wanted that strike call in the corner, didn't get it.
I've been really impressed with Texas State's plate discipline all night long. They've done a good job of staying true to their game plan, not expanding the zone. There you can see again, Kennedy visibly frustrated, not getting those curveballs called, breaking across the plate.
And so now the go-ahead run is on base. And the Bobcats have 2 excellent runners on right now in Kellner and Trahan. Brings up Piper Randolph.
The biggest key for Piper Randolph and Sarah Vanderford behind her is just passing the bat right now. Don't have to try to do too much. Another good take right there by Piper Randolph. Kennedy doesn't get the call up in the zone.
And we have an ejection. Board, ask everybody, are we good? Good to resume play, and we are. 2-0 to Randolph. And boy, has this game been fun. Showed you the defense that we've seen throughout the night. Some big offensive moments for each team as well, albeit far and few between, but they've come. And now you got the Bobcats here threatening in the 7th inning with a 3-0 count to Randolph. Only 1 out, and awaiting on deck is Vanderford. One of Texas State's all-time great hitters. And she is a pitch away from coming to the plate with the bases loaded. Ball 4.
The energy in this stadium right now is just electric. Texas State can feel the victory. You said it, Brant, so much experience for Vanderford coming to the plate. And again, she doesn't have to do too much right now. I like this call by Trisha Ford to gather her whole defense. Has the postseason feel, it has the energy. You've got to be able to calm your heart rate down, play the game one pitch at a time, regardless of the situation, and find a way to get the job done.
Here we go. Sarah Vanderford, bases juiced. One out in the 7th. Ball 1 from Kennedy.
If I'm Texas State right now, I'm taking all the way until Kennedy throws a strike. She threw a 4-pitch walk to Piper Randolph after walking Sierra Trahan. Still hasn't thrown a strike to Vanderford.
And there's the first one there. 1 ball, 1 strike to Vanderford. The tying run, Kellner is at 3rd. The winning run, Trahan is at 2nd. Two balls, 1 strike.
This is so tough as a pitcher because you know the kind of hitter you're facing in Sarah Vanderford, but you also have the bases loaded and nowhere to put her. You're behind in the count 2-1. You've got to go right at her.
And now Kennedy in danger of walking in the winning run. Three balls, 1 strike. Tie game.
Great plate discipline by Sarah Vanderford, understanding the situation. Kennedy struggling to find the strike zone, not chasing pitches out of the zone. Now she passes the bat to Carmen Bass. And really here, all the pressure's off. You've already tied the game. All the pressure's on Kennedy in the defense. If I'm Carmen Bass right now as a hitter, I'm just looking for one pitch that I can drive.
0-1 to Bass. Talked about her penchant for the dramatics earlier tonight. She's had some big hits in her career, some big moments, only a sophomore. Had a walk-off opening weekend against Creighton. A chance to do that here against Texas A&M. 1 ball, 1 strike. Kennedy against Bass. On the ground, throw to home, 1 out there, back to first, and it gets into right field, coming on to score. Randolph, Texas State wins it 4-3 over Texas A&M.